This is the Voice of the Land podcast with your hosts, Kevin Arnold and Nick Paulus.
These days, I don't know what a catch is in the NFL still, but I do know what bad defense looks like. And today, we got some bad defense down at First Energy Stadium. Yeah, bad weather conditions, but a chance to win that game for sure. The Browns, as they said after the game, they are not happy with themselves, as they should not be, and no one should feel any good about what we witnessed today. It was embarrassing, and it was an uninspired effort down in First Energy Stadium here tonight. What's going on, everybody? Welcome on in to the Voice of the Land. I am one of your hosts, Kevin Arnold. Alongside me, as always, my brother from another mother, Nick Paulus, and of course, our producer extraordinaire behind the proverbial glass, Peter Tellep. We are partnered with Web Streaming Studio by LPV Productions, and of course, this is a Big Play production as well. If you're watching on the Big Play Facebook or YouTube page, welcome. If you're watching on our Twitter page, at VTL_POD, welcome to you as well. Or on Sportscaster Live, thank you all for tuning in tonight. Or if you're watching us on replay, thank you so much for tuning in throughout the week to the Voice of the Land here. Of course, our sponsor in season, well, I guess we're really not on a season anymore.
We're doing live shows now.
We talked about that last week. We did move up.
Moving on up to the east side.
All right, I think we should stop singing.
Good call.
We just lost a bunch of viewers. But our sponsor is DP Construction LLC. I'm sure our buddy Tyler LaFrada will be reaching out to us very soon to tell us not to sing anymore on the show.
Might be pulling the sponsorship after that one.
He might be. Guess what? The money's already gone.
Too late.
Don't know what to tell you. But Tyler LaFrada and Uncle Steve over there at DP Construction LLC, reach out to them for all your concrete construction needs. You know, we know Tyler LaFrada personally. Paulus, you've been friends with him for a long time, meeting him through this show, through our fantasy league as well. He's the same person, whether personally or professionally. And I think when you're dealing with anybody in business, I'm not sure about anybody out there, but I would want to deal with someone that's just going to be themselves, be genuine. And hey, if they're a Browns fan, Cleveland fan on the side, gotta love that too. And those guys over there really are. That
doesn't hurt. And they have, just the concrete work that they do is fantastic. It's second to none. It really is.
And you can check out some of that work on their Facebook page at DP Construction LLC. You can also call them at 330-217-4999. That's 330-217-4999. You can also get a quote through Facebook, reach out through Messenger, and they will get you all set up with that. Of course, we always say it, Tyler will get you set up with the work and send Uncle Steve out to get all done. Uncle Steve working hard out there for everyone out there, DP Construction LLC. And, of course, we already mentioned our Twitter, where you may be watching this show here tonight, but you can also find us on Facebook at Voice of the Land. YouTube, we have our own YouTube page at Voice of the Land Podcast. You can find us everywhere. We even post the audio still to Google, Spotify, Apple, all of your major podcast platforms. Also Podbean. I know people have started to use that app as well. We're on there. Subscribe, like, hit us with get the notifications turned on. Anything you can do.
Absolutely.
Hit us up, and of course, follow us on Twitter. And of course, Paulus, you can always talk to him. Sports throughout the week at CLE_Paulus. Myself at Kevin7, because I always come in clutch when it matters most. And LPV Productions on all social media sites as well. And we got some cool pictures still up on our Instagram page at VTL_pod as well. Tonight, we are here to talk Browns, and we're here to talk football. We may get into some college football, some trade deadline stuff, but the brunt of what we do is we react live to what the Browns did just a few hours prior. And they lose today to drop to 5-3 to the Las Vegas Raiders, 16-6 in, I guess it was, what word were they using on the broadcast today, Peter?
Grapple.
Which then to me, because I was listening to Jim Donovan call the game, the hell is grapple?
Well, thus the title.
Right. So, I'm looking outside as, at this weather, and I'm like, it's sleet. It's sleeting outside, and it's Grapple is just the German word for sleet. So, which is what it said on the on the lower third on the television for the weather. It said hail/sleet and wind, and it's so why they had to pull grapple. I don't know.
Way too fancy.
Well, I mean, I guess there wasn't a whole lot of action going on. So
you got to make content where you can.
You got to do something.
You got to do something.
I mean, we did it with high school football. Sometimes we had to fill airtime. We got actually
couple of blowouts.
I don't know.
There were a few.
I don't know if I told you guys. We actually got a lot of compliments for our broadcast, like in those types of games where we may not have thought it was going to be a blowout, but it ended up being a running clock in the second half and everything.
Yeah.
A lot of comments that we got, like keeping people engaged in the game, even if it wasn't a school that they're interested in.
Yeah.
They watched us, they listened to us, they watched the game, they enjoyed the product on the field, but when it got out of hand, they enjoyed kind of the filler there. So,
and
your boys are making some moves.
There we go. Honestly, that's like the best compliment you can ever get, doing the things that we do, because if there are blowouts, everyone next channel or I'll find something better to do. If you can stick with something whenever something's 30-10,
right?
Yeah, you're doing something right.
I just think that when you're filling it with grapple and that, like you're debating whether you're going to use the word hail or sleet.
Yeah.
And then you say grapple, but they were making it seem like grapple was this whole different word,
right?
Like the actual word to use when it actually has the word sleet in the name. I think that tells you what the argument is. Like hail is totally different than sleet. We here in Northeast Ohio know what sleet is and what hail is.
Well, thank goodness it wasn't snowing, because they probably would have tried to figure out the Inuit word for snow, because I think it's the Inuits or whatever that or Eskimos that have like 30 some different words for snow, because they probably would have used that as a lot of filler.
Sure.
So.
Well, let's we got plenty to talk about with this game.
I mean, you don't need to use grapple, and you don't need to.
It's true.
You definitely need a better defense out there on the field. And that's where we're going to, kind of start. But, Paulus, I kind of want to turn things over to you real quick. Just your thoughts on what you listened to, watched. I know that you were doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes and been doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes the last couple of days. But today's game, just specifically 5-3, and you had an opportunity, and you just couldn't capitalize. We talked about opportunistic and capitalizing on opportunities. Didn't do it. Oh, he's correct. He's got to do it.
I wish it was a beer. I wish this was a beer.
Yeah, I don't drink,
Thanks,
and I wish it was
though.
too. So, just where
God's honest truth, though.
Yeah.
This defense was so awful today. That garbage should be offended to be called the Browns defense. I was furious with what happened. Not to say that Oakland doesn't have a solid offense. They got some weapons out there. Henry Ruggs, Josh Jacobs. Derek Carr is having a subtle, like MVP-esque sort of year. Dude came in with 1,700 yards, 13 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, throwing 72% going into this game. But this game, we were in a 50-mile-per-hour gale storm wind advisory thing that was going on. It almost blew my door off my car. Trying to get here, my door almost flew off. I am so furious with the way the defense played today. I can barely talk. That all being said, the worst one of all, honestly, though, was the offensive output. Once again, in the losses that we have, you stated this a couple weeks ago whenever we lost to Pittsburgh and we only scored 6 points. Mm-hmm. What's the common theme? You lose to the Ravens with 6 points. Mm-hmm. You lose to the Steelers with 7. Yep. And then you lose 6 today. Okay. The other days, there wasn't gale force winds and everything like that. Today is a different story. The offense couldn't produce, not because OBJ wasn't out there or anything like that. I'm sure everyone's going to go like, oh, I bet you wish you missed OBJ now.
Ryan Clark did.
I know he did. He obviously wasn't watching the game to see exactly what was going on. That all being said, the Raiders still scored 16 points, and they ended up beating us by double digits.
Yes.
Kevin Stefanski has been doing so well lately, and since the start of this year. You and I have talked about this. I believe he should be in the I'm sorry, not the MVP, but in the Coach of the Year conversation. He truly should be, especially even at 5-3, even losing this game, he should still be in consideration for it. But today was the first game of Kevin Stefanski's coaching career here in Cleveland that made me start thinking, what the hell were you thinking? And it's not like, Baker went out and threw a billion times or anything like that. It was 25 times. But in 50-mile-per-hour winds, it shouldn't be over 15, to be completely honest with you. You look at Derek Carr, he threw 24 times as well, only completed 15 passes. He only had 112 yards. Baker actually had more yards than Derek Carr. Both of these offenses were doing a lot of really dumb things. Okay, especially like John Gruden, and I love John Gruden. I love Chucky. I do, but at least he understood the way to win this game was to hold on to the ball. They held on to the ball 37 minutes. They had time and possession of this game. Literally didn't give the Browns any sort of opportunity to get the ball and really do anything great on offense. But even whenever you did have the minimal opportunities to prove something out there on the offensive end, Kevin Stefanski refused to lean into it. The running game was there to be had. Kareem Hunt, I understand he had 14 carries for 66 yards and 2 catches for 7 yards. And he had a critical drop. So did Jarvis. So Harrison Bryant had a fumble. Njoku had a drop. There were a lot of bad things that happened on the offensive end that if you want to throw wind out there or anything like that, I heard all of the players, doing interviews after the game, and they were saying, the wind is not an excuse. They both teams had to play in the same condition. So that's not an excuse. I'm just disappointed. More the defense, very much so, but more so with Kevin Stefanski and the way that the offensive output was today, because it could have been so much better. This is a game that was clearly in hand, and it just poof, it's gone. It bothers me that we lost this game and we're heading into the bye week with this sour taste in our mouths.
Yeah, and you said it best. You're basically describing what we said at the beginning: uninspired football. And what you like after the game is guys are talking and they're mimicking what their coach is saying. So yes, it's good that the culture is being built. We're not, at least me tonight, I'm not here for moral victories. I'm not here to, 5-3, great. If I told you before,
we're not doing that. I did that a couple weeks back. We're not doing that tonight.
And that was a different circumstance because
Absolutely.
we know where the echelon is of Baltimore and Pittsburgh.
Yes.
I even said it last week that I may have gone a little bit too overboard that week. But I may not go to that extent. It's not going to get heated. Sure. But I'm telling you right now, it's not going to be rainbow unicorns and Skittles and
Skittles.
It's not going to be like some hunky dory type thing tonight. We're going to call it for what it is. We are Browns fans. We love the Browns. We want to see them win. Always love to see a winning record out there because we don't see it very often. We haven't seen it very often in our history of being sports fans, Paulus. But it's a whole lot different when you see how these games have gone. Peter, watching that game today, what were your thoughts? And just talk about the missed opportunity the Browns had here today.
Missed opportunities. That's just what it was. It seemed like they just were, a lack of enthusiasm on the field. The defense looked stale.
Sure.
The offense was so. Granted, Teller's out. So
there were a lot of people out.
Yeah, there were a lot of people out, but the running game I think should have been more of a focus. They didn't. I don't think they allowed it to develop. But we were getting in these 3rd and 8 situations where it's like Baker's got to throw. I did actually like the fact that was the first play of the game he rolled out. They did that twice.
Yeah.
So it was something different. I think they were trying to establish some kind of passing game so they could kind of open things up for the run.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't work. So,
what it looked like, honestly, it looked like that they just didn't want to play today. And like, can you blame them? I mean, 50-mile-per-hour winds. It's grapple out there. I mean, there's a lot of things going against that team. It's cold. It's windy. The field is crap, probably. Like, I understand you don't want to go out there, but that's your job. Your job is to go out there and put forth an effort, enough of an effort to try and win a game. And it just looked like they were settling for just, we got the bye week. And that bothers me a little bit because this team is so beat up. We're out. OBJ is not coming back. Yep. Obviously, he's done for the year. Nick Chubb is on his way back, but he's still a couple of weeks away. Maybe we'll get him after the bye week, or maybe a couple of weeks after that. Cool. But Wyatt Teller's still out. Austin Hooper is out. We're down to Cardero Hodge as our number 2 or 3 wide receiver. That's an issue. We are down a significant amount of players right now, but that shouldn't be an excuse to go out and put out that sort of performance, especially on the offensive end. I know there's a lot of people out there, but you got to do something. Next man up. And I heard that a lot, from the post-game interviews. Kareem Hunt said it. Baker said it. Kevin Stefanski was saying it. Myles Garrett got hurt on one of the very first plays. Yeah. And that really hindered him being out there. He was only able to go out there for like third down pass rushing situations and things of that sort of nature. But once again, next man up. I understand that Porter Gustin is not Myles Garrett. Like, we all know that. But the offensive line for the Raiders isn't, the 1970s Dallas Cowboys offensive line. It just isn't. They were missing a couple of people on that line as well. One of which had, he didn't have COVID symptoms, but he was just coming off the COVID track and decided to sit out. I believe it was the right tackle, the guy that Myles was going up against. So you had their backup tackle in there. You should have been able to dominate this game from the line of scrimmage, and it just didn't happen. We are getting zero help, on that defensive line. And it bothers the hell out of me because we should be so much better. I'm not saying that we should be, 8-0 or anything like that. But even if we are 6-2, we just should look better than what we produced today.
You brought up a point there that I was going to kind of touch on too, and it was the look of a team that was ready to go on a bye week.
Yeah.
Now, before I touch on that, I just want to remind everybody tuning in right now, as we are a few minutes into this live right now. If you are watching live, you can tune in again on our Twitter at @VT_pod or on Big Play's Facebook page, their YouTube page, and Sportscaster Live. I'm kind of tracking the Facebook page for Big Play. Paulus is tracking our Twitter page as the live feed, as we have it in front of us. I have to look at my stupid face. But we're tracking those. So if you have any comments, if you have thoughts on this game today, we will get those in. Of course, a phone line. Phone line is coming soon. We're working out the kinks on that. Hopefully through the bye week, we will get that going, and then we will have the phone line for the second half of the season. But right now, you can comment wherever you're watching right now. Let us know what you thought, and we will try to read through those and react to those as much as we can. Now, back to the point of acting like they're on the bye week. Here's how I know that the Browns have not yet fully established a culture. Their coach all week long said he was asked about players thinking about going on a bye week.
Yeah.
And you know how some players will play, especially for teams that have nothing, already feel like they have nothing to play for, like the New York Jets you haven't won a game. We've been in that kind of scenario before, or 1-7 at this point, or maybe squeaked out 2 wins at best first half of the season, or you're 1-11 by the time you get to the bye week, because usually ours was later in the season. And guys, you just see that game and it just lackluster effort, or you've had to put in so many guys that are fighting for a spot in the NFL that you get that kind of, you have this energy about you. You have this, this might be my last day in the NFL, like truly might be my last day in the NFL. You have something to play for. Those guys go out and you get an inspired effort. You are 5-2 coming into this game. Your coach is saying, we need to go out there like the team that we have not won anything, and we have to keep this going. We have not established ourselves. We haven't won a Super Bowl. We have, like, people are trying to put us in the playoffs already. We're not there. We haven't done that. We need to come out and we need to head into the bye week the right way. They didn't do that. They came out acting like a team that, didn't want to play in these conditions. Didn't want to, just was thinking about what is that COVID-19-esque vacation that they can take, or how can they get away from the game for a while, instead of coming out and attacking this game. You are the Cleveland Browns. Whether you are from this kind of area or from this kind of weather or not, you know that playing in the AFC North, this is the type of football, these are the type of conditions, maybe more extreme than usual, but you know you're going to play in wind, you're going to play in sleet, you're going to play in snow, you're going to play in cold. You have to be the team that's establishing in the trenches. You should have been the offensive line with more continuity. They talked about their Fab Five that they wanted on their offensive line for the Las Vegas Raiders. They've only played 3 snaps together. And they've had injuries. They've been decimated on their offensive line, just like the Cincinnati Bengals offensive line last week. And yet they were pushing you off the ball. And your offensive line that's been together all year couldn't get any push. I understand Wyatt Teller's not there, and that's a big loss to the Browns. But you have got to establish the run. What the Raiders did is exactly what the Browns should have done. And you hit it on the head there, Paulus, that, Stefanski probably got out coached today by Chucky on the other side, because as soon as they saw, and going against the harsher winds the first time going into the dog pound, as the Raiders started the game doing that, they realized we're not going to be able to chuck the ball up all day long. We're going to have to find a way to run this ball. And once they got in a rhythm, they couldn't be stopped. And they just kept saying, here's a little draw play for you. Here's a counter up the middle. Here's another run play. Stop us. And no, they're falling forward for 4 or 5 yards. They're taking guys for a ride. I saw Terrence Mitchell riding Josh Jacobs, being lifted off the ground by Josh Jacobs' strong legs and allowing him to go forward. Guess what? As we transition into talking about this defense, you know how embarrassing that is for a guy that is as good as Josh Jacobs is. The talk all year has been that he has not been able to get the yards after contact all season long, like he did last season, and how he's made a name for himself in the NFL. Well, he found that rhythm today, and guess what? You're the team that allowed that to happen. And now you've lost any sort of tiebreaker to him. So you're 5-3, but a missed opportunity can cost you later on. When we had the season of dreams, when it was they were 10-6 in 2007, and they somehow missed the playoffs being 10-6. You usually see teams make the playoffs in that regard, and there's an extra wild card spot this year. And if you go 5-3 in the second half of the year, well, guess what? You're 10-6, so you probably make the playoffs. But in that year, there was still talk. As much fun as we had, there was talk at the end of the year. Well, this game here, we may have missed an opportunity to then put us at 11-5. That could have been that one game that separated us from the playoffs. Today could be that game. Not saying they can't make the playoffs still, but that is not a playoff-esque defense. That is not a playoff winning capable defense out there. And as an entire team, you have not yet established a culture enough to, what we said all off season, even as much as that has gone on this year in 2020, not being able to have the traditional offseason for a new coaching staff, and Kevin Stefanski, who we feel is still a good coach, and someone we want to see continue to move forward and see what kind of transitions he makes in the bye week 2. We said we can't just hear you say it. You have to be about it. You can't talk about it and not be about it, because that gets you beat every single week, almost every single week in the NFL. Even as much talent as you have, that gets you beat every single freaking week.
So for me, and like just to butt in, and like this is me trying to be a positive person, okay? Like there's not a whole lot of positive things that you can take from today.
Right.
Is there though? And like honestly asking you, is there anything that made you go, okay, like that's something we can work with, or anything like that? Because personally, I'm one of the most optimistic people you will ever meet. Today was crap. Like there is not one thing that I'm like, oh yeah, you know what? Like I could see us building on top of that. I'm not saying Baker looked like a bum. He didn't. He didn't. There were a lot of drops.
Yep.
He was put in some bad situations. But there was nothing that made me go, you know what? Like that's something that, I can't wait to see that next time. Because like it just didn't. Today is, once again, it's just like the Ravens game where there was literally nothing that you can really learn from. You just need to burn the tape because it was that sort of just clunkiness is probably the best word for it. There was nothing that I was like, you know what? Yeah, no, there we go. I could see us doing well, the next time that we'll learn from that. No, there's nothing at this point in time. Like I thought that they clocked out. Yeah. I thought that they mentally and physically clocked out because they were spent, over the last couple of weeks. That win last week against Cincinnati, once again, it was against the Bengals. It spent them. Mm-hmm. I mean, Baker had to come back 3 separate times in the fourth quarter and throw those touchdowns. I mean, emotionally drained them. But it's your freaking job.
Yep.
Go out there and produce. Do something. Miles got hurt. I get it. But you got to have your backups need to understand that they're one hit away. They're literally one heartbeat away from going into a game. And it bothers me that like we just sort of mailed this one in, because had we not mailed it in, you're 6-2. You're 6-2 going into a bye week. And I understand we never thought at the beginning of the year that we were going to be 6-2,
right?
Or realistically even 5-3.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that you can take this game off because this game is probably the most important game of them all, because it was going up against someone that is fighting for the same exact thing as what you're fighting for. That last playoff spot, that number 7 playoff spot. Because if you look at it, the other teams that are right there with you, Steelers or Ravens, one of them is getting that 5th spot.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Obviously, that's a done deal. It looks like Tennessee and Indiana and the Colts, one of them is going to get, the other spot. And then what? Then the last pick is basically between 3 teams. It's between us. It's between the Raiders, who now have an advantage over us, even though that they're 1 win behind us, but they're 4-3.
Yeah.
And then probably the Dolphins. And like our buddy Anthony, shout out. Tua looked. He didn't look great today, but they won and they put up 28 points against the Rams and ended up winning. It was a great team effort. But they're right there in the playoff hunt as well. They're 4-3 as well. So there's 3 teams fighting for that number 7, playoff spot. And this is a game that you just couldn't have.
It's a game that you needed to get. And they came out playing like a team that thought they had already gotten to the playoffs almost.
Yeah.
And that they could just waste a game because they're going into their bye week and just take a week off so that they get almost like a week and a half extra of time off.
Yeah.
And that is embarrassing. One argument I always hate is when athletes are told they can't talk about other things, like because that's not part of their job description.
Like shut up and dribble?
Yeah, those types of things,
okay.
Yes. But when you don't do your main job and then you start to try to talk about other things, that's when credibility is lost. I don't care what job you're in. You need to do the job that you are tasked with doing.
Yeah.
Each week in and week out. And as taxing as the NFL is, physically, mentally, emotionally, even though it's only 16 games, it is draining. I get it. It's something we will never experience and nothing we will ever put our bodies through. What these guys have to go through to get through 16 games, maybe plus if you make it to the playoffs, then go through an offseason where you're trying to heal up, get yourself ready, and then get back in shape to then get in football shape. Like that whole process. We'll never know what that's like. I get it. Not trying to criticize anything like that. But that is what you have been tasked to do. That's what you've wanted to do your whole life. That's what you're being paid to do. You had an opportunity today. You're still in 3rd place in your division, and you could have gained some ground today, and you came out like you didn't want to be there. Peter, do you have any silver linings from today? Because clearly Paulus and I don't.
Yeah.
No.
Cut it.
I mean,
Perfect.
right there.
Honestly, that is the best cut, Peter, you've ever had right there. Just no.
I mean, I'm kind of like you, Nick. I'm looking for
Anything.
There's got to be something, and I'm
Right.
sitting there going, well, I guess they could look at the tape and be like, okay, here's how you don't cover a slant route,
Right.
because I mean,
It's a good
come
point,
on,
yeah.
because there
This is-
was no coverage on those slant routes. It was ridiculous. I mean,
Right. This is how not to tackle.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, they were getting 7 yards a pop.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Josh Jacobs, and don't get me wrong, I got him on my fantasy team.
Yeah.
Balled out for me today. Thank you. But I mean, last year, I mean, was his rookie year, and he had a coming out party. He had like 1,150 yards. And he only played in 13 games or something like that. Great season. And then this year he struggled a lot, and it had to do with the offensive line. It had to do with the whole setup. And honestly, he just hasn't been producing as much this year. But you made him look like, freaking Sean Alexander out there. Like, that shouldn't be happening. Not with Josh Jacobs, not with this offense. This today was tailor-made for the running game, and you only rushed Kareem Hunt 14 times. He had 66 yards. That's a 4.7 average. Career average, that's pretty damn good. If you get him 20 carries and then a couple of catches, I understand he dropped one, okay? But you got to keep going back to that well. And Baker even said, the times that whenever someone drops a pass, he looks at him and he goes, I'm coming right back to you. That's what you want to hear from your quarterback. And I believe him. I believe he's saying that.
Yep.
But there was nothing today that I'm like, you know what? We can build off of that. This is one of those game films, once again, just like the Ravens game, that you can just throw away. Just throw it away, because there's literally nothing you can learn from this. And just get through the bye week, get healthier. Hopefully we get Wyatt Teller back. If we had Nick Chubb today, I guarantee you we would have won this game by 2 touchdowns easily, because Nick Chubb makes those running plays. The plays that Kareem gets tackled, running 4 yards.
Right.
Chubb's getting 8 to 20. He's that dude that can break loose, but he's one of 3 dudes in the NFL that can do that.
Right.
And he's not here right now. So you have to learn how to go on without Nick Chubb, because if he gets injured again, which could happen, you don't want to be, stuck there, just stuck.
The only thing I would disagree with is just throw this tape away.
Okay.
Because the Browns threw this game away out there on the field.
Fair.
So you better learn from that film and
good point.
Look and see what happens to you. And if you continue to do this, if you find some way, some form, you get a couple games, you play really well, and then there's that one game that's against a decent opponent that you have a chance to really make some hay and trying to push for the playoffs, and you throw that away. Does that become a habit? That needs to be nipped in the butt right now.
Can I throw it away?
You can throw it away.
Can I mentally throw this away?
I don't know. I don't know how your brain works.
It doesn't. It doesn't work, period. So, but I understand. You know what? You're absolutely right. I'm wrong. First time ever I'm ever wrong.
Whoa.
Peter's over. No, it's Peter coming out with some great takes right now.
Peter, you need a camera.
We need a
Come
camera.
on,
man. We need to get a camera.
Nick's tired. He's not even going to remember this tomorrow. So
God's honest truth. You're not wrong. But I you know what? You're 100% right, Kevin.
Yeah.
The players, they need to learn from this. The tape shouldn't be thrown away. Honestly, it should probably be put on a loop. It should be put on a loop in the field house or wherever, just like kind of how Ohio State does it. If they lost to Clemson, and there's videotape out there of highlights of Clemson just rolling through Ohio State, and they got the scoreboard of the Clemson game, and just to keep a reminder, don't ever do this again. Great take by you.
And the reason why Ohio State does that is not to just keep pushing this bad moment on the guys. They know how they felt after that moment, And they know what they wanted to do to correct that the next time they got a chance to go out there on the field. So that's why they continue to play moments like that. So when these guys, if they get to leave the building and when they come back, that better be the message. And it's not just a message from the coach to the players that does not translate to the field. We need to see the team that we've seen in the 5 wins. That's the team that we saw. Whatever Kevin Stefanski is saying, the players are saying it before the game, they're showing it on the field, and they talk about it after the game, and they move on to the next one. That's the team we need, not the team we've seen in the 3 losses that's basically scored 6 points and have looked lackluster, uninspired, and embarrassing, which today I could argue is maybe more embarrassing than even the Ravens and the Steelers game. Ravens, you have almost a built-in excuse of it's the first game with a new coaching staff in COVID-19 where you've been done everything offseason virtually until you got to training camp. Steelers game, see, I can't forget things. That's where my brain works.
And like that's why I didn't even bring up the Steelers game,
Right.
because there was so much you could learn from that.
Right.
Like literally the entire game plan just need to be rewritten.
But by the time like those games got going, they were kind of over. It was those days where you just go out and there's just nothing. You have nothing and the team just beats you down.
Yeah.
Today, you could have won that game. And we can talk about Hunter Renfrow, whether that ball hit the ground or not. Like, it probably did, but oh well, that's not something you can control.
Right.
You still had opportunities to go score. And if you really think you were wronged in that moment, go prove it. Where's the energy after that? If you feel like you have been done a wrong, go prove otherwise. And one thing I learned from this game is I'm not just going to call him 23. It's going to be 23, 44, 39.
Yeah.
I guess 54. Vernon came through a little bit today.
Money Mitch got
51 even. 51 even. Like,
yeah, I mean they had all of them had their issues.
Yeah.
The defense period had their issues.
if they don't take the ball away, they don't like this is the game that you would have seen more often this year if they had not had the chance to take the ball away and lead the NFL in turnovers to this point.
The most discouraging thing of all of this, okay, and the more I think about it, the more I hate it. Okay. Kevin Stefanski, he probably can learn from this. Okay. So like maybe that's the silver lining in all of this. The worst thing in the world though is to get punked. Okay. And you got punked, Browns, on your own home field. I know the weather, whatever. The Raiders had to play in the same stuff.
Yep.
Okay. And they out-toughed you. Gerard Cherry of ESPN 850, the next level said it the best. You got out-toughed. And that is probably the biggest detriment against this team is that whenever the moments get tough, we've seen less than likely they're not going to fight back. The only fight that I've seen from them so far is against the Bengals.
Yeah.
And that was last week whenever Baker had his coming out party. Right. But once again, that defense is poor. This defense was bad too. Maybe not Bengals bad, but they're pretty bad.
Yeah.
And they out-toughed you. Both offensively and defensively. That is a problem. That is an issue. You can't win in the playoffs.
No.
Maybe you can get to the playoffs with this defense because of all the turnovers and everything that causes that sort of stuff. But you will never, ever win a playoff game with the way that you play defense today. Ever. It just won't happen.
Can't get out tough, even with all the weather and stuff. You cannot be a team that plays in Cleveland that gets out tough by Las Vegas, who plays in a climate-controlled stadium.
That stadium was baller, by the way.
I know.
I know. They called it the Death Star. I love that.
I don't know if it really
it looks so cool.
It looks cool.
Yeah.
When I heard people say the Death Star, I didn't see it, but I get it now. Like, kind of like seeing the inside too.
Sure. Well, and then the Raiders associate themselves with the dark side and everything like that. So
and
makes sense.
Black hole, those types of things. But you still can't get out toughed in these kind of elements on off the shores of Lake Erie, you cannot get out toughed by Vegas coming into your building. Now, we got people commenting on Facebook right now as
here
well.
We go.
Jana Fenstemaker says that they seemed like a team who won't even be able to beat the Jets. And I'm going to tell you right now,
Don't say that. Please don't say that.
I'm telling you right now, even as professionals, and you play them later on in the year when they have nothing to do. We just talked about these third string, fourth string, or guys they're bringing off the bench where they can get that one win. A defense plays like this and they don't turn the ball over. Everybody thinks that we have, you see it with the records and everything. They put it up on the screen today.
Right.
Browns have the second easiest schedule, the remaining way that they're going.
Sure. Yeah.
Now, they got the Texans next, and they got Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson can still light it up. Now, if they trade away more wide receivers, they're just...
I get what you're saying with
Right.
that, but even Deshaun Watson, you would think with the 1-6 record that they have,
Right.
he's probably doing terribly or anything like that. Dude has 15 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. He's still performing at a high level. It's that defense that is the biggest concern.
They don't say any given Sunday for nothing.
True.
Because, and again, against this defense, and if the offense can't get going, they can't get into that shootout mode. I mean, I'm going to take it week by week, as Kevin Stefanski says. I'm going to listen to him, and I'm going to take it week to week.
Yeah.
You have a bye week. You need to get better, and you need to come out and ready to play because no team is going to lay down for you. Just because your record is now better than most of the teams you're facing,
Right.
you didn't, besides the 0-16, 1-15 years, you didn't lay down to anybody else. Now you are going to be facing those types of teams. They're not laying down to you.
Yeah.
Just a couple more comments in here. My sister is trying to get swag. I mean, you got the Voice of the Land shirt on. She wants the shirt. She's also talking about no grapple over in Seattle. I know you live out in Seattle, Amy. I don't want to even hear this word again. All right, it's sleet. We're done. We're moving on. Just stop.
We're on to the bye week.
And she says she also wants a Tyler Lockett jersey. I think she's trying to hint to maybe like a holiday present. Or
Sure,
anything.
yeah.
First of all, I'm not going to get into a rant right now.
DK Metcalf.
No, I love Tyler Lockett.
I like him too.
He may win me one of my fantasy
Dude had
leagues.
56 points last week.
I know.
He was crazy.
Yeah, he's crazy. Him and Russell Wilson together are crazy.
But yeah.
First of all, I'm not going to get into any of the holiday season talk because guess what? Thanksgiving is first.
Thank you.
And I'm going to focus on that.
Thank you.
Food before anything else. So I'm not going to listen to any holiday music. I'm not watching any of the specials, any of the movies. I'm only focused on how much turkey I can fit into.
Favorite Thanksgiving food?
Oh, ooh.
I know we'll get into this a couple weeks from now, I'm sure, but
my
just
family's,
off the top.
My family's stuffing, and before the unfortunate circumstance of having to go dairy-free with being lactose intolerant and stuff, my family's chocolate pudding pie as well. Okay. I never ate pie when I was a little kid, but I could always count on that.
Right.
Because it was just chocolate pudding and pie.
Peter.
Ooh, that's a tough one. So I'm a huge stuffing fan.
Okay.
Yeah.
But my sister-in-law makes this cornbread. It's almost like it's not a pudding, but it's got.
Okay.
It's. I love it.
Sure.
It's this crazy cornbread. It's got like pieces of corn in it, so it's like, not like as solid as and crumbly as like a regular cornbread.
Right.
Yeah.
But man, it is good.
Nice. I used to never like stuffing. I love it now.
I was
absolutely love it now. But the best thing ever, my mom, and I've talked about this. My mom she still makes pumpkin roll, and it's like the best pumpkin roll of all time. My wife Kelly has now taken on that tradition because my birthday is December 1st. So it's like literally like a week away, from Thanksgiving. So I always get pumpkin roll, like a little bit of pumpkin roll on Thanksgiving. And then my mom normally makes me a pumpkin roll for my birthday.
instead of a cake, right?
Of course.
Okay.
we still get cake.
Oh.
But because why not? But ice cream cake though, like I know you're.
God, I miss that so much.
I know. Well, and like I'm a little lactose intolerant. It messes with my stomach a little bit, but I fight through that pain. I fight through that. I make
telling
sure
me I'm not tough.
No, I didn't say that. You just said
he's
that.
not toughing you there.
No,
So.
but anyway, the pumpkin roll. It Kelly makes it now, and it is unbelievable. It's really good. But let's get back to yes. Sorry for derailing everything. So
I guess she was saying more so like she could see herself in a Lockett jersey that's Browns based. Just enjoy
let's trade for him.
Enjoy him out in Seattle because they're not trading Tyler Lockett.
No.
But if you want to know like an early list, since you're watching right now, Amy,
there you go.
If he wins me a league, the only non-Cleveland sports jersey I may get, I told you if Russell Wilson won me one, if Tyler Lockett helps win me a league, I might need a Tyler Lockett jersey.
There you go.
You're out there in Seattle, you got the hookup. Or any Seattle Sounders hookup that you got out there, because I'm a soccer guy. So you got this, sis. I love you. Don't worry.
Yeah, there you go.
And then Jana also chimes in and asks a question, kind of where we were going next. After today, is there someone you think that the Browns should trade for or will trade for before the deadline on Tuesday?
I think, the Browns could go literally anywhere on defense. Like they need safety. They need secondary help. They need linebacker help. They need defensive line help. Personally, for me, he's not available. They've already dismissed it. But once upon a time, we heard Odell wasn't available either.
Right.
Quinnen Williams from the New York Jets. He's a young defensive lineman, has some issues with injury and everything like that. But whenever he's healthy, he's dominant.
Yeah.
But he gets doubled and triple teamed all the time, just like Miles.
Right.
And he doesn't get the sacks like Miles does. But I think if you were to bring him in and move Sheldon to the defensive end spot, because whenever Miles went out last year, Sheldon moved to DN and he ended up with like 3 or 4 extra sacks, towards the end of the year, those final 6 games. And he was like literally the only one that did anything on that defensive line. If you bring in Quinnen Williams, who's like 22 years old, could be a stud, and like you keep him and Miles for years to come, that's who I would want. Like, goal in life would be to get Quinnen Williams, because I think that you could set them up for the next at least minimum 5 years of a fantastic start of a defensive line.
Peter, any names that you've kind of heard out there on the trading block that would sound nice in a Browns uniform, may help this defense or this team shore up some of the holes that we know they still have a lot of, even unfortunately due to injuries?
I honestly have no idea. I really don't. Especially after today.
Sure.
I'm just drawing a blank on anything. I just feel like there's
they
so
need
many.
everything.
Yeah,
they do. I mean, there were a couple decent plays down at the goal line there.
Yeah.
When they
started having a nice little like defensive line.
Yeah, and so there were some plays that were made, and I thought you saw a spark, but it was too little, too late.
Yep.
Because that was, I think, to me, that was the first time in the game that they actually won the battle at the line. But as far as trading for someone, I don't know.
Off the top of the head, nobody, and that's understandable. They have a lot of needs.
Yeah,
they do with all these injuries. Definitely hurts.
There was a lot of people, fans with sources out on Twitter, like, and that's not a dig at anybody, but like, because this is kind of one of those moments where there's draft, trade deadline, free agency, where you start to see like, oh, I love this guy. I'm hearing the Browns are interested in this guy.
Sure.
And then people like really, they hear that name and they really cling to it. They really want that person to come in. I'm going to tell you right now, Browns fans, there is no magic elixir, especially after what we saw here today. And they should not be, if they trade for a wide receiver, that's fine as long as they put an emphasis on defense to get 1 or 2 players on that side. That's where the focus needs to be, on defense. After a game like today, like Peter just said, it doesn't seem like there is that guy that we can kind of go with that, is just going to, again, be that magic elixir, or that one guy that really draws like, oh, like this could really do it. But you've seen it before where maybe certain guys out there on the defense, while they're struggling right now, I don't think 23 is this does not pertain to 23, that's for sure. But there are certain guys that schematically, if you can get someone else maybe in their position, they move slightly over, whether it's linebacker or along the defensive line, as you were just talking about, they may be able to excel more because now you're able to bring out their traits more,
Right.
and you have someone else to fill what they were tasked with doing and just weren't capable doing. Two names that I have heard, one name that I really would like. Ryan Kerrigan, who Washington has also said is not available in trade, but I know would like to be traded.
He's solid.
He's a solid defensive end that, again, when Miles is healthy and taking up 2 or 3 guys, someone that could get to the quarterback maybe more consistently than Olivier Vernon, what we thought Vernon was going to be. If that's the Vernon we're going to get moving forward that we saw today, getting 2 sacks, and
Sure.
he was disruptive in there, great. Like that's that spot maybe shirt up. But I don't.
I was gonna say we've seen 20 games out of Vernon. Like
seen too much to think that's the case.
Right.
Another guy I would like, I believe Anthony Harris. Is that correct? The safety out of Minnesota.
Oh, Minnesota. Yeah.
Yes. That's kind of the name that I really want, and it's not. Take the digs.
It's Anthony Harris or Anthony Harrison, maybe Harrison, I
Yeah.
believe. Yeah, but
my mind is so clouded after today's game.
He's 29 years old, so like he is up there a little bit. I mean, the NFL is that once you hit 30 league, unless you are a quarterback, you see your career start to dip a little bit. So I understand that they still owe him I think it's like $11 or $12 million. So and I think for like the rest of the year, like that's what you would owe to get him. That's a little pricey.
Right, a little pricey, but I believe Sendejo was there too, and I'll use his name now for this.
Right.
But he was there in Minnesota as well. But we heard those 2 names. The one I wanted was Harris or Harrison. If someone knows, just correct me.
Yeah, it's Harris or Harrison. Yeah.
But you know who I'm talking about. The guy, like it was talked about in the offseason. When I heard it was Sendejo, I was a little bit disappointed, but I knew when the Vikings were good, he made some plays too. I just think he's past that point.
Sure.
You're getting more ability, and you can maybe get Redwine and Ronnie Harrison in there and like being able to do some different things. I think it just helps with more flexibility and maybe helps Joe Woods get that defense where he wants it to be, because this does not look like a Joe Woods defense right now, what we saw in San Francisco. I know he doesn't have the same clientele, but there are some players on this team. I don't know if it's him, if it's the plays he's calling, doesn't fit with what these players can do. They don't have the right players for his defense, or what's going on. No excuses anywhere. They need to make a move, and hopefully they do. I don't know that there's really a big name around the NFL that will react next week, I think, to anything that may happen, and especially league-wide. We try to get nationwide stories going on, but it's so tough because, especially now, I appreciate Dave bringing us on to do these live reacts, but
no, well, and right now, the way that the COVID world is working, it's tough to bring in anyone because you got to go through all the protocols and honestly, it took Ronnie Harrison, and we traded for him before the season started, like a week or 2 before the season started. He really didn't show up and started playing for us consistently until until the Colts game,
right?
Whenever he made the pick. So. And that was a month, month later. So, and we don't have a month to groom someone.
Right. But I think the advantage the Browns have is that the trade deadline is during their bye week.
True.
So you can get a guy in, go through the protocol, get him a playbook and stuff. So that time that we may not see them on the field and you want to see them on the field, you have time to kind of build them up a little bit to go through those protocols. To close things out, as always, I mean, Ohio State, you got to talk Ohio State football. We 3 are going to get together. We got to talk Ohio State. Now, they won yesterday. I believe it was 38-25 at Happy Valley. It's not the typical whiteout conditions that you typically see. I actually saw a stat in traditional whiteout games, though, at Happy Valley. They're only 8-8. Penn State's only 8-8 in those games. So we are prone to lose.
They'd be better than that.
Yeah, we are prone to lose, as I said last week. But, of course, offense looks good. They got the running game going. Who's their new running back?
Trey Sermon,
and then
Master Teague.
Master Teague went over 100 yards yesterday.
He had a good game.
Yeah. I mean, so they look good. It's kind of that same concept that we're seeing with the Browns with the Buckeyes. They play just enough defense and they get the stops when they need them sometimes, but they are prone to give up, yards on offense, especially in the running game.
Losing Chase Young will do that. I mean, they've only played 2 games, so we shouldn't be too critical. Of it. I know you're not.
Right.
Yeah.
But Ohio State, I feel more confident than I do in the Browns after seeing 8 games of the Browns, only 2 games of Ohio State, that they can get that corrected over the Browns getting their defensive loss.
I think they
100%.
said that the defense lost 7 players.
To
the
Which
NFL and graduation.
Which I get, but you don't want the habits to seep into those rooms.
Of course.
But I think with Ohio State though, you've got that culture where it's not going to happen.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
pre-game yesterday for Buckeye game day, we actually had Cardale Jones on.
Okay.
So we got to talk to 12 Gauge a little bit, and he gave us a couple of stories of like the things Urban would tell him before going out there, and it was really cool to interact with with 12 Gauge and everything. But the way that I look at all of this is like you have to be mentally prepared to go into a season of knowing you're going to dominate teams and just proving your dominance. Something that like Cardale was even saying, the game that they lost that year, his, his senior year, the Michigan State game, wherever they didn't run Zeke enough, and that really killed them. But then they had like that mindset, click, okay, let's go out and dominate. And then the final couple of games of the year, they went out and torched everybody. And that's something that we need to make sure that we have for this Ohio State team, knowing that the Big Ten, I'm just going to be honest with you, it's a joke. The fact that Michigan lost the other day, Penn State, is now 0-2.
Yeah.
They were ranked number 6, heading into this country, heading into the season. And now they are most likely going to be out of the poll there for them.
Yeah.
I mean, really Big Ten football is Ohio State and nothing else. So like to have that mental fortitude of knowing that you need to dominate in order to show up, because there's a couple of things, and you and I real quick, get to talk about COVID, with Clemson, just ravaged them. Trevor Lawrence is now going to be out of that Notre Dame game, and they almost lost to Boston College yesterday. Do you think that Justin Fields will be the Heisman contender, like the number 1 Heisman contender over Trevor Lawrence coming up right now?
No.
Only
not because I don't have any faith in Justin Fields, or I think he's the best quarterback.
He has 7 incompletions and 6 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what we're working with, folks.
The dude's the real deal.
Yeah.
I think that he can make. I definitely think that in 8 games he can make more than enough of a case to be the Heisman Trophy winner this season. I just think with the love that Trevor Lawrence gets, and if Clemson loses next week to Notre Dame and Trevor Lawrence isn't there, and they end up going out the rest of the way and they dominate, they'll still be in the college football playoff.
Right.
His name will still be in the Heisman Trophy race, and he will get a lot of the buzz. How the voters see it, I don't know. Just based on how that kind of storylines approach, or that, those nationwide storylines get approached when they latch onto a guy.
Sure.
And he's been out there longer. I don't know if it's enough to overcome, but I hope that it is. And the reality is Justin Fields still has that opportunity.
One thing before I throw it over to you, Peter, to get your final take of that. The same thing was said whenever Andrew Luck was going into his senior year.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, "Oh, Andrew Luck, Heisman!" Like it's his birthright to have the Heisman. And then Robert Griffin, the third, came out of nowhere and ended up taking that Heisman directly from him.
Yeah.
So like we've seen that sort of stuff happen before. And not to say like Andrew Luck didn't have a great year, he did. And Trevor Lawrence, is going to and has already had a great year so far, but I think that there are certain cases whenever things like of this sort of nature does come into effect. And I think that they are going to struggle against Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame could actually win that game outright. Yeah. So that is going to be interesting to see. But I think Justin Fields is just that dude.
Right.
And he's just so damn good. Like I could realistically see him being the number 1 Heisman contender this time next week.
I think the difference between Andrew Luck, though, and Trevor Lawrence is there's something about like that it factor that people really connect with. Andrew Luck was just, he's just a good dude. Like
Well,
there wasn't
but
there
he-
wasn't like that flash, like that.
Well,
that you can't
everyone was considering. I mean, they all said that Andrew Luck is the next John Elway,
Well,
and now they're saying that about Trevor.
But talent wise, yes. But like it's the character that goes along. It's like the person that goes along with it. While
personality,
Trevor, yeah,
aspect?
it's that personality trait, like that flair.
Yeah.
I just think that where it's very very close, and where again Justin Fields has the opportunity. Justin Fields has that quality too, and he's still that really good person. We talked about it last week.
Yeah.
His leadership qualities on and off the field, being a major proponent and a major movement starter for Big Ten football coming back.
Absolutely.
I don't think Fields is going to be the front runner after next week. Just with what Kevin said, I agree. Is that if they even if they lose to Notre Dame, if they come back and they dominate, I think that just puts more of a focus on Lawrence's value.
Sure.
Okay. Now, if he comes back and they win, but they're not dominant, and Ohio State just goes through and dominates the rest of their games, then I think Fields is going to jump to that top spot.
Yeah, it's like it's being given that pass, and it's a well-known pass for the unfortunate circumstances of COVID-19. You know who I found out yesterday was a big Ohio State fan that I didn't know before?
Who's that?
Mickey Mouse. I'm sorry, I had to get that in there. That was I actually have not dressed up for Halloween like last night. I haven't dressed up since high school.
Really?
Like, that was like the first time dressing up for Halloween since high school, and I thought we won like that wedding that we went to last night. So
it looked pretty good. We'll have to get some pictures out there for sure.
I did a whole photo shoot.
I saw.
Real quick, finishing up right here, but obviously Halloween was yesterday, so we got to talk about it. Everyone talks about the candy. We don't got to do a candy. Favorite costume you've ever worn? Real quick, 10 seconds.
Oh, that's easy for me. It was I think it was an A117 stealth bomber.
Ooh.
It was like specially made for me by my family. Like it was kind of like strapped on, and it was like right in front of me. And
Maverick.
So I was like a fighter pilot, and
Nice.
I had like it looked legit, like those old stealths that I miss so much.
Peter.
See, it's weird because I had a lot of like homemade costumes and stuff, and the plastic ones that would cut your face, the cheap ones from Kmart or whatever.
Right.
But I had one that I was trying to do like the skull with the makeup, with the white face and the black around the eyes. And of course the makeup kit didn't have enough to like cover my face.
Right.
So I ended up just mixing it all together so my face was just really gray.
Sure.
But it had the latex. That liquid latex.
Yeah.
So I covered my face with that. And it stuck to like the makeup. So what I could do is I could just pull my skin out and just snap it back. And I really freaked out a couple people with that.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
It turned out way better than my original
Than
plan.
what you were anticipating.
What about you, Paulus? What's your best?
My best ever was, I was probably 22, 23 years old. I'm trying to remember whenever the movie came out, but Hangover. Hangover 2.
Okay.
I was Alan from the Hangover 2. So, like they go to Bangkok and he gets his head shaved. So, like, I literally grew out my beard for like 3 months. It was longer than this for sure. But shaved my head. I wore, the hat that he wears. I bought the same exact dog shirt as what he had in the movie. And my sister was going to Ohio University, and big party school, obviously.
Yeah.
Went down there for Sibs weekend, which was Halloween weekend. And everywhere that I went, Alan, dudes were throwing me beers. I went into parties I probably should have never been in, never had the invite for, but everyone was like, Al from the Hangover. I was like, yeah, come on in. I don't know how I made it back to my sister's apartment at that point in time, but it was a fantastic time. It was a great time. Easily my favorite costume, other than like whenever I was a kid, Batman.
Right.
But
right, like being the superheroes and stuff. But
going out and drinking as Alan from The Hangover was like the funnest thing ever.
Now, kids, remember to drink responsibly.
Drink responsibly, and I haven't had a drop. I haven't had.
Don't drive.
Right, that's right. No
PSA.
drinking and driving.
We bring the PSAs here.
That's
I got
right.
one to close this one out, but just real quick. I know you said you didn't want to talk about candy.
Yeah.
Okay. I've hated how candy corn's been disrespected this whole Halloween.
You don't
season.
like, or you do like
I
candy.
love candy corn.
Really?
I do.
I used to,
but you gotta get the Brox.
Have you ever had too much of something and then you're just like, nah, I'm good? Like I used to live on candy corn whenever I was a kid. Now I'm like, no, which that was a phase.
I mean, yes, I've had that type of feeling,
Yeah.
but like never with candy corn. For some reason, like I've always just
You are like one of the very few.
I know, and I will stand by it. That's my platform, and I'm sticking to it in this voting season. Candy corn 2020. That's my. But speaking of which, to close out the pod, close out the show today, actually, just want to remind everybody, of course, Election Day coming up on November. Some of you may have voted early. Some of you may be voting on Election Day. Please be safe out there.
Absolutely.
And get out and vote, vote, vote. This is not a political statement by any means. Not telling you who to vote for.
Yeah.
Whoever you decide to vote for, whoever you
It's on
feel
you.
you've done the research, that's who you feel like can lead us the best or lead your district the best, whatever type of race it is.
Do it.
President on down to local. Select them, vote for them, get out there. If you're registered, just fulfill that civic duty, get out there and vote. And so we will all be better together no matter what happens because we made the decisions together by getting out and voting. But that is going to wrap it up. This edition of the Voice of the Land show here on Big Play, live every Sunday at 7 p.m. on VTL_pod, our Twitter page, Big Play, Facebook, YouTube, and of course, Sportscaster Live. For my brother, Nick Paulus, and our producer extraordinaire, Peter Tellep, I am Kevin Arnold reminding all of you sports fans out there, don't let anyone ever tell you it's just a game. And we love you all 3,000. Thank you so much to all our frontline workers who continue to fight COVID-19. We will see you all next week, Sunday at 7 for the bye-week edition of The Voice of the Land.